There is someone younger in your life who feels something profound for you, and the reasons have nothing to do with what you think they do. It goes deeper than attraction, deeper than circumstance, all the way down to 7 specific psychological truths about what genuine love actually responds to. What we're covering today are 7 specific psychological reasons why younger women develop deep, genuine, lasting love for older men, rooted in attachment science, neuroscience, and behavioral psychology. One of them involves something that happens in her nervous system the first time she encounters genuine emotional groundedness in a man. Another involves a specific quality that older men develop without realizing it, that younger men simply cannot replicate. And the 7th, the climax, is the deepest psychological truth about why this love, when it is real, tends to be the most lasting kind available. All 7. Let's go. Here's the honest premise. When a younger woman falls deeply in love with an older man, the world often reduces it to something superficial: security, status, a father figure dynamic, something that fits neatly into a dismissive narrative. The psychology tells a completely different story. The actual reasons, documented in relationship research, grounded in attachment theory, and confirmed by the lived experience of people who have been in these connections, are about something far more specific and far more profound than any of those dismissive narratives. 7 reasons. Real psychology. Let's get into it. Bold claim. The first and most immediate reason a younger woman falls for an older man has nothing to do with what he says or does. It is about what his nervous system communicates to hers before a single word is exchanged. Here is the neuroscience. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory documents that the human nervous system continuously monitors the states of other nervous systems through a process called neuroception. Before conscious awareness, before deliberate evaluation, the nervous system reads whether another person is regulated or dysregulated, grounded or anxious, safe or threatening. When a younger woman encounters a genuinely grounded older man, someone whose internal state is stable, unhurried, and not contingent on external circumstances being favorable, her nervous system responds with a specific physiological shift. The threat detection system quiets. The social engagement system activates. Something in her body says, "This is safe. I can be here." That physiological response gets experienced consciously as attraction, as being drawn towards someone without fully understanding why, as the specific sensation of wanting to be near a person whose presence makes everything feel more manageable. Younger men, still in the process of building their sense of self, rarely produce this response. They carry the nervous energy of people who haven't yet found their footing. Their presence activates her nervous system rather than settling it. The older man who has genuinely found his internal ground creates something she may have never felt before, and her psychology pulls her toward it with a force she can't fully explain. Scenario: a woman named Layla, 26, described meeting a man named Bernard, 53, at a professional event. She told her friend, "I can't explain it. I walked into the conversation already nervous about the event. Within 5 minutes of talking to him, I was completely calm. He didn't do anything specific. He was just settled. And somehow that settled me too." That settling, the co-regulation of nervous systems, was the beginning of something she would spend 2 years building on. Bold claim: a younger woman in the process of building her own identity is specifically drawn to a man who has already built his, not to avoid her own development, but because his self-knowledge creates a stable foundation from which she can develop more freely. The developmental psychology here is direct. Erik Erikson's stages of adult development identify the primary challenge of young adulthood as identity consolidation, the ongoing process of determining who you are, what you value, and what kind of life you want to build. This process is genuinely challenging. It requires navigating uncertainty, testing different versions of yourself, and gradually arriving at genuine self-knowledge. Doing this alongside a partner who is also in the middle of this process as typically happens in same-age relationships, means two people in varying states of uncertainty trying to build something stable together. The foundation can shift because both people are still shifting. A genuinely self-knowing older man offers something different. He is not finished becoming. No one ever is. But he has a stable enough sense of who he is that his identity doesn't depend on the relationship to provide it. He brings established values, genuine self-knowledge, and the specific clarity of someone who has already answered most of the foundational questions. That stability doesn't restrict her development. It enables it. She can explore, grow, and develop her own identity with the security of knowing that the foundation of the relationship is not contingent on who she is in the process of becoming. Mini story. A woman named Zara, 29, had been in a 3-year relationship with a man her own age before meeting a man named Philip, 51. She described the difference to her therapist. With Marcus, we were figuring ourselves out at the same time. We were each other's experiment. There was a lot of love there, but also a lot of instability, because neither of us really knew who we were yet. She paused. Philip knows who he is, not rigidly, but genuinely, and somehow that gives me more room to figure out who I am, not less. I don't have to be certain because he's certain. I can be in process because the foundation is stable. Bold claim, one of the most powerful reasons younger women fall for older men is something so simple it sounds insufficient, but the psychology behind it is profound. He actually listens, and genuine listening, in a world of distracted half-attention, is one of the most intimate experiences available. Here is the neuroscience. When another person gives us their genuine, complete, undivided attention, when we can feel that we are the primary focus of their awareness, the brain releases oxytocin and dopamine simultaneously. The bonding and reward systems activate together. The experience is neurologically similar to physical touch. Older men who have lived enough to understand that other people's interior lives are genuinely interesting, who have moved past the self-absorption of younger years into authentic curiosity about others, listen differently than men who are still primarily focused on how they're being received. They listen to understand rather than to respond. They follow the thread of what someone is actually saying rather than waiting for a gap to insert their own experience. They ask follow-up questions that prove they were tracking not just the words, but the meaning underneath them. For a younger woman accustomed to being in conversations where she is technically heard but not actually received, this quality of genuine listening is striking. It produces a specific experience, the feeling of being genuinely interesting to another person, of being someone whose interior life is worth understanding rather than just acknowledging. Scenario: a woman named Priya, 31, had been on numerous dates with men her age before spending an evening in conversation with a man named Gerald, 57. She described the difference. Every other conversation, I could feel the person waiting for their turn, half listening while composing their response. Gerald just listened, really listened, asked things that proved he had actually been following what I was saying, not performing attention, actually giving it. I've thought about that conversation more than any date I've been on in years. Bold claim, one of the most counterintuitive reasons younger women fall for older men is that older men, when they have done their inner work, don't need the younger woman's approval to feel okay about themselves, and that independence produces genuine attraction rather than diminishing it. The psychology is rooted in what researchers call non-contingent self-esteem, a sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on external validation to sustain itself. People with genuine non-contingent self-esteem are consistently rated as more attractive, more trustworthy, and more worth pursuing than those whose self-esteem fluctuates based on how they are received. Younger men, still building their sense of self, often need the woman they're with to respond in particular ways to feel secure. That need, however subtly expressed, produces a quality of interaction that puts pressure on the woman. She becomes responsible, in some sense, for his emotional state. And that responsibility, even when it's never explicitly stated, is exhausting. The older man who has genuinely arrived at non-contingent self-esteem interacts differently. He is genuinely interested in her without needing her to be interested back. He is warm without requiring warmth returned. He shows up fully without his showing up being contingent on her response. That independence, genuine rather than performed, creates an experience of being around someone who gives freely rather than giving to receive. And that experience is one of the rarest and most attractive things available. Bold claim: the way an older man carries his past, specifically the degree to which he has genuinely processed it rather than simply survived it, is one of the most powerful and least discussed reasons younger women fall deeply in love. Here is what the research shows. People who have experienced significant adversity, loss, failure, relational pain, and emerged with genuine understanding rather than bitterness or avoidance carry specific psychological qualities that are immediately detectable in social interaction. They are less reactive, more empathetic, more capable of being genuinely present because they have learned through actual experience what matters and what doesn't. Their relationship with difficulty has produced wisdom rather than defensiveness. When a younger woman encounters this quality, the specific combination of having been through things and arriving at peace with having been through them, she responds to it in a way that she finds difficult to explain to people who haven't experienced it. She calls it depth, substance, the sense of there being more to him than surface. What she is actually responding to is integrated experience, history that has been metabolized rather than suppressed, pain that has become wisdom rather than armor. Mini story. A man named Vincent, 61, had been through a divorce, a significant professional setback, and the loss of a parent within a difficult 5-year period. He had spent 3 years doing genuine inner work after those experiences. A woman named Natalia, 33, asked him on their third date about the hardest period of his life. He answered honestly, without performance, without defensive minimization, with the specific clarity of someone who has genuinely made peace with something. Natalia was quiet for a moment. Then, "You talk about hard things like someone who isn't afraid of them anymore. I've never met anyone who did that." That quality of being unafraid of difficulty because you've been through enough to know you survive it is one of the most genuinely compelling things an older man can offer. Bold claim: younger women who fall deeply for older men almost always cite one quality above all others: not his looks, not his success, not his wisdom, but his consistency, the specific, reliable quality of a man who shows up the same way every time. Attachment research is clear on this. Felt security in adult relationships, the experience that the person you love will be reliably available and reliably themselves, is the single strongest predictor of relationship satisfaction, depth, and longevity. Consistency is not exciting. It is not dramatic. It does not produce the specific aliveness of uncertainty and chase, but it produces something more valuable than any of those things: genuine trust. And trust, earned through the accumulated evidence of consistent showing up, is what younger women who have been through enough disappointing inconsistency are most specifically looking for. The older man who has developed consistency through the long practice of being someone his own life depended on being offers this without effort. It is simply who he has become, and for a younger woman who encounters it, possibly for the first time, it feels like finding solid ground after years of shifting sand. This is the truth reveal, the deepest reason, the one that contains all the others, and that most people never hear articulated clearly. Bold claim: the most profound reason a younger woman falls deeply in love with an older man, the reason that makes this love genuinely lasting, is not what he offers her externally. It is who she becomes internally when she is with him. Here is the psychology. Human beings associate feelings with the contexts that produce them. When we consistently feel more alive, more intelligent, more genuinely ourselves in a specific person's presence, We associate that experience with them. We don't think, and that conversation helped me think better. We think, something about him makes me better. The feeling attaches to the person who created the conditions for it. The older man who has genuinely done his work, who is grounded, genuinely curious, consistently present, emotionally regulated, and authentically himself, creates conditions in every interaction where the people around him can be more genuinely themselves. She is funnier with him than she is with anyone else. More honest. More willing to say the things she actually thinks rather than the things she has calculated are safe to say. More capable of accessing the version of herself she most wants to be. And she cannot stop coming back to whoever produced that experience. Because she is not just in love with him. She is in love with who she is when she is with him. Mini story. A woman named Caroline, 32, tried to explain her relationship with a man named Arthur, 58, to her mother. I know you think it's about his experience or his stability or whatever people assume, but that's not it. Her mother asked, "Then what is it?" Caroline was quiet for a moment. "I'm better with him. I think better. I'm more honest. I'm more myself than I am anywhere else. And I don't know how to explain why that is. I just know that I'm the version of me I most want to be when I'm with him. And I don't want to lose access to that version of myself." That is the deepest psychological truth about this love. He didn't just attract her. He became the context in which the best version of her most fully emerged. And we do not walk away from the people who produce that experience. We build our lives around them. That is what you have built or are capable of building through the genuine, consistent, authentic inner work of becoming fully yourself. Not for her, for you. Because a full life, lived with genuine character and genuine presence, naturally becomes the environment where profound love is possible. Be that man, completely, daily. The rest follows naturally. Here is the question I want to leave you with. Of these 7 reasons, groundedness, self-knowledge, genuine listening, non-contingent confidence, integrated history, consistency, and the specific quality of making her more herself, which one do you most genuinely embody right now? And which one represents the biggest opportunity for growth? Because these are not fixed traits. They are qualities built through practice, through the daily, honest, consistent work of becoming more genuinely yourself. Drop in the comments which reason resonated most with something you're experiencing in your own life right now. I read every single one. And if today gave you something worth carrying forward, subscribe. Every week we bring this level of psychological depth and genuine honesty to the questions that actually matter. See you in the next one.